to the Town of Poughkeepsie Committee of the Whole meeting for March 8th, 2022. Please rise for a pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Jeff Renahan, first ward.
Bill Carlos, second ward.
Mike Safone, fourth ward.
Stefan Krakauer, fifth ward.
Ann Schurshin, sixth ward.
Jessica Morin, Deputy Town Clerk.
Megan Clementi, Van Water.
John Baza, Town Supervisor. Welcome everybody to tonight's meeting. And for tonight's meeting, there's a presentation from EFG Sabre regarding Hudson Heritage Development Master Plan. And after that, just committee reports. Marty, welcome. The floor is all yours.
All right, actually, I wanted to see if we could, David Cooper's on with us.
Sure.
David was going to just introduce the presentation in terms of the process and context. So
Okay.
just take a couple minutes. So David, if you want to go ahead.
Dave, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you. Great, great to see everybody. Thank you for allowing me to participate via Zoom tonight. I have to run to another meeting as well. So we are here tonight on the Hudson Heritage project to go through some proposed changes to the programming and locations of certain uses, et cetera. I think we'll let the applicant go through it. But just to give the board a context of why we're back before you to discuss the overall program. As you'll recall, I think in 2017, your board approved the development master plan for the Hudson Heritage site overall. That DMP governs the future development of the site. The planning board in all of its site plan review stages has to first determine that whatever's being proposed remains consistent with the development master plan. In addition, your board adopted various provisions to the HRDD zoning regulations with respect to density for residential as well as commercial in various uses that I believe now the applicant is looking to shift around. So we're back before the town board because before the applicant can go through the site plan process to follow through these phases, your board is going to have to review and, if you deem appropriate, adopt an amended development master plan. Along with that, I believe there will be certain zoning amendments that are going to be proposed with respect to the HRDD regulations to accommodate changes in densities and locations. And then also, your board will have to undertake a SECRA review, just confirming that the proposed changes to the development itself is not going to result in any impacts that would exceed the thresholds that you identified back in 2017 in your SECRA review that were acceptable because there was proper mitigation in place. If you identify that there are new impacts associated with proposed changes to the development, then the applicant's going to have to demonstrate that there can be the appropriate mitigation measure to mitigate that increased impact, whatever it may be, before you can move forward on your the consideration or voting on the development master plan, as well as any proposed zoning changes. So in a nutshell, I believe that process will start with a formal petition submitted to your board by the applicant when they're ready to do so.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. It's working? Oh, good. Good evening. Thank you for seeing us tonight. I'm Martin Berger with Sabre Real Estate Advisors, Sabre Real Estate. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Let me slip over. I'm Martin Berger with Sabre Real Estate Advisors. I'm the development manager for EFG Sabre Heritage, SC LLC. It's nice to see everybody here this evening. With me this evening is Mr. Mark Weingarten, named partner at Del Bello, Donnell and Weingarten Wise and Whitaker LLP. Mark has acted as lead counsel in connection with several $1 billion of real estate transaction, tens of millions of square feet of commercial development, tens of thousands of residential homes, and most importantly, very experienced in large-scale mixed-use developments. Also with me tonight is Ed Alangian, who is my business partner from EFG. And what I would like to do is let Ed say a few words this evening as an introduction, and then we can proceed from there.
Hi, everybody.
State your name.
Hi. It was about a year ago.
Ed, you might want to pull the mic a little closer
Let's
to
see.
you.
How's this? Any better?
Yeah.
Okay. It was about a year ago, I think this month, when roughly a 2-year shutdown from COVID and Omicron, I think was the magic word, a little over 12 months ago, it kept us from being able to actively engage in the site. I personally live in the Carolinas. We couldn't fly up here. Inspectors couldn't come out to the site and stuff like that. And so as last year's even worse winter was ending, we were able to come back up and resume travel and regroup. And after 2 years of relative isolation, we were able to kind of get everything restarted. And we found that our suppliers had suffered labor difficulties, supply chain shortages, all the things that I'm sure you've heard of and experienced. It took a couple months to regroup and to ramp back up to full speed. Once we did that, we started to look past the commercial retail development, which we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. You may have noticed that we've had CUS open in the last few weeks, Smoothie King open. We've opened a piece of the road, another piece of the road. It's really helped a lot to open up the space, to have traffic flow, to have people, to have completed buildings, to have things under roof for tenants to see and realize that they can be in this year. So that's been a really nice thing. So we took the next step and said, okay, what comes next? So after a long hiatus, we sat down with Jay and with Michael and started talking about where we're going to go from here. And it was a very interesting meeting, and Jay, I think I remember it vividly. And I walked away with 3 very interesting takeaways. And that was that the town both admonished, challenged, and inspired us all in the same conversation. Okay? They admonished us to not lose sight of our roots, to not lose sight of the horse we rode in on, okay? To develop a workable, working, living, playing community, right, that incorporates the past history of the site through design standards, through building preservation, and historic components. So basically, this was always the plan. Don't ever forget that. That was the admonition, okay? Very fair, very appropriate. They then challenged us to say, give me something different. I don't need another strip center and a bunch of apartments that have the same color scheme. It's not enough. And then they inspired us. They said, show me what you got. Show me the best you can do. And that was a great meeting. And I have thanked them many times for that. Okay. We're here tonight to share with you our inspiration. We went and we took the team we had and we upgraded it, okay? Gentlemen like Mark and Joe Ariel, design development team, okay? And we put the best people on it, and we put together something that we think it inspires us. We're here tonight to see if it inspires you. So we'd like to share it with you. We apologize for the 2 years of not a whole lot of face-to-face time, okay? Some was COVID, some was just us not doing as good a job as we could. I sincerely apologize for that. But we're here now. We're not here to ask for something. We're here to share and to say, here's what we're thinking, so that you guys can then look at that and figure out where you want to go. So Mark is going to do some historical perspective. He's got, as Marty already mentioned, okay, some vast experience with a lot of things, and so he's going to talk a little bit about, where we were, where we are, where we're going, and then Marty's going to go into and give you an update on what we've accomplished and what we hope to accomplish. So I'd like to turn it over to Mark, and I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you, Ed. And so I'll take a little bit of what Marty and what Ed and what your council said, and just, and again, for the record, Mark Weingarten from Del Bello, Donnell, Weingarten, Wise, and Wiedeker, with my partner Joe Ariel, representing EFG Sabre this evening. So really the concept is, when they brought me into this, and I know you don't know me, but I've done a lot of work in the Westchester area. I've also done a lot of work here. I was very involved with the building of the new Vassar Brothers Medical Center over in the city, not too far away. Was very involved with the building of Silo Ridge, the very successful high-end residential project that's over in Amenia in your county. And I also have done legal work in the past for, and still, for Marist College, as well as Vassar Brothers. I'm actually a registered lobbyist for them as well. So I am familiar with the area, although most of our projects are down south. But Ed and Marty, who I've worked with for more than 20 years now, and we've done a lot of projects together. The charge was come in, review what we've done. I believe you did meet my partner, Peter Wise, previously, who worked on some of the technical aspects of this with your council. But they said, let's think about what we've done, what we've accomplished, and then how do we get this finished and how do we make this where everybody's there? So the concept is to be here tonight to share with you what we think, but the takeaway from tonight is going to be, if not tonight, in the near future, to be meeting with you and getting that input and getting that feedback and finding out whether or not we have the right idea or if we're on the right path. So just briefly, I know you're all familiar with it, but just to review it quickly, we have a 156-acre site. It was a very dilapidated, vacant, old New York State psychiatric facility with buildings in all sorts of levels of disrepair. It was bought in 2005 from the state by a company, CPC Resources, but as you know, not a lot happened in the 10 years they owned this place, other than a big lightning strike in 2007 when the place was really hit. There were all sorts of intentional fires that were set, some of which was after EFG came on the scene in 2014, the worst, which was in 2018, that took down a part of the administration building. The reason we raised this is so that you understand a little bit of where we came from and what we're working with. What did happen was it was a master plan that was put forward by the prior owner, where they sought 750 residential units, 50,000 feet of commercial, and a hotel in the administration building. Unfortunately, that went nowhere. It never got finished, and the environmental review process never finalized. EFG comes in 2014. They built it, but I'll remind you when they bought it, and I'll remind you that when they did buy it, this was the state of it. I already described what the buildings looked like, but at that time, the New York State owned sewer system had failed, and we had significant work with various state agencies, et cetera, to fix that and to protect it from the contamination. There were, even in the plan that was put in front of you at that time from the prior owner, 6 abandoned asbestos-laden buildings were slated to be left on site. No longer the case. There was significant soil contamination on the property, and the approvals, as I mentioned, had not been secured. So when they come onto the scene, there's a lot of work to do. They brought in originally Diversified, but soon thereafter determined that Sabre was the right partner. And I can tell you, in my experience, they are the right partner. We've done some very significant mixed-use projects together. Marty's and his company's experience in attracting retail, particularly in this environment now, is critical to this. But they also know how to do a live, work, play. And now that we've done the commercial, as we'll mention, we're looking to complete the rest of it. The group spent months, once Sabre came on the scene, talking to the interested parties. They met with many of you. They met with various town officials, county officials. I walked them into meetings with Vassar Brothers. We met with Marist College, a number of locals, to decide whether or not the plan that was being put forward was one that would work here. The goal was always the same: create the live, work, play, mixed-use environment and maximize the economic impact of the project for all the interested parties. You know the history. You adopted findings in 2017. The master plan, originally 2018, was amended in 2019. The approval permitted 750 residential units, 360,000 square feet of commercial space, plus a bonus space of 80,000 square feet having to do with the hotel, and then some adaptive reuse. In consideration of completing the requisite infrastructure improvements, it was determined that the project had to start on Route 9 and go eastward. In order to do that, phase 1 of the project had to start as a commercial project. We couldn't go into the back of the site without bringing the infrastructure forward and going there. But the approval was for the entirety, but we always knew that phase 1 was going to be the commercial piece of it. Since 2018, when the team broke ground, they have delivered on many of the promises that they have made to you for phase 1, all of them, frankly. They demolished 10 dilapidated buildings and structures at a cost in excess of $7.3 million. They replaced failing portions of public and private sewer and water lines, cleaned up sewage spills at a cost of $2 million. They constructed off-site road improvements at a cost of $3 million. They also restored adaptive reuse a number of highly deteriorated structures, as well as worked to preserve historic characteristics in certain buildings slated for demolition in excess of $2.75 million. Finally, they spent $1 million just in testing the contaminated soil to know what we could do as far as the project was concerned. In addition to these very real and specific challenges that were presented by the project itself, the market has now changed in the last few years since they started this project. We had anticipated a medical use in partnership with Vassar Brothers Medical Center and potentially even Marist when they were talking about a medical school there. But when Vassar Brothers and Health Quest became Nuvance and leadership changed, that was no longer on the table for us. So the medical component of this is no longer included. As a result of numerous factors which you're all aware of, including online shopping, the pandemic, the retail market severely contracted. And many businesses that we would normally be going to and would be fighting each other over renting the stores were no longer in business or interested in opening new stores. There were significant increases in security costs that were unanticipated. We have a 24-hour security on top. You heard about and you know about the fires that took place over there. We've spent over $5 million to date in security alone, securing the site so that we can continue to do what we need to do. And finally, I guess, as you're also all aware, there are real inflationary pressures that we're finding ourselves in right now. Interest rates have increased dramatically, and we have, in the last 2 years, experienced 20 to 25% construction increases on the projects that we're building in this region right now. All of these things make it very difficult to go forward and finish. So we are going to need you to help us and partner with us to finish this. But these are our concepts. The pandemic itself, as I mentioned, extended our timelines, significantly increased the costs of carry, and narrowed the market for tenants, as I mentioned. The fact that they were able to build this project during the pandemic and keep their retail people in place, in my opinion, was really a truly remarkable accomplishment, particularly in the face of things like supply chain problems. To date, over $60 million has been invested by this partnership to create the transformational commercial part of the project and to lay the groundwork for now the residential community to come. Now it's time to finish the job. A quick reminder for you before Marty, I'm going to turn it over to Marty to show you pictorially what we're looking to do. I want to remind you of the numerous public benefits that are associated with this project and with the phase to come. There is and will continue to be a significant increase in local property taxes. Maybe better for your school district than just for you, but that is certainly a big benefit of the project. The commercial site went from vacant to over $1 million already a year, and upon full build out is expected to have over $4.5 million annually in property taxes alone. To date, the project has created 400 full-time jobs and hundreds of construction jobs, and that will continue to increase. The next phase will provide desperately needed housing to complement Vassar Brothers Medical Center and Marist College, to just name a few. I happen to know, because I am in meetings with their leadership, I know that Marist College, for example, desperately needs housing for its graduate programs that it's looking to expand. I've been in meetings with Marty and with Ed, with the leadership of that school. They also are looking potentially into multi-generational learning opportunities for your seniors here in the area that want to go in. I happen to be very interested in that, as we are the first project in the state of New York that I'm very proud of that's under construction now. We represent SUNY Purchase in Westchester County. We got the Albany to permit us to build housing on campus. And we're building 400 senior units on campus of SUNY Purchase so that multi-generational learning can take place. Those people will have the benefit of being able to audit the college classes or even go to them if need be, but also presenting mentorship opportunities for those people. This is the type of housing you want in your community. Also the market rate and keeping the prices down and doing the things that we're hearing about with this housing compact with the governor, the housing crisis that you hear about. We need a place for our kids to live. We need a place for people to be able to rent if they don't necessarily have the ability to own. Finally, the other community benefits that are part of this project are expanding the public gathering and entertainment spaces, which have already been started. Those are coming, and creating a trail network, which we expanded in the second phase. We've preserved wrought iron for reuse on the retail buildings. We reconstructed the CIA water line, realigned Hudson View Drive, installed traffic signals on Route 9, and expanded bus routes for shopping access for the residents. So at this point, having an understanding of where we were and what we believe the benefits and the public benefits of this project are, I'm going to turn it over to Marty to ask you to show you pictorially what it is that we're looking to build, and then talk to you about what the next steps are. Thank you.
Sure, thank you, Mark. I just want to follow up on Mark's comments. When we first became involved with the project, we went to all of the constituents with like a waiter, like, what do you need? We went to the town, we went to Marist and Vassar Brothers and HealthQuest at the time, and CIA, et cetera. And collectively, the site plan that was approved reflects all of the needs that were mentioned to us. Everyone said they needed a supermarket. They did not want to go to Hyde Park. The idea of local retail and restaurants and shops where Marist College students could come from the east as well as the west. A community that was walkable with gathering spaces, so on and so forth. I'm going to share with you a screen if I can. Jessica, am I properly sharing the screen now? Yeah. The other very important thing that was incorporated was the idea of reusing and giving respect to the history of the site. And with Yvonne's help and others' help, we painstakingly went through an effort of incorporating into the commercial development the retail, the colors that reflect the history of the site, as well as components of the old buildings that were reincorporated into the site. That was something that we said that we would do. At the time, we showed you pictures of other successful mixed-use developments. I remember sharing with you Dobbs Ferry Rivertown Square and the King of Prussia Town Center. So what I would like to do is do two things in my presentation. One, share with you some of the images and some of the items that we collectively said we want, and how we have delivered and how we are delivering them, so you can see that. And then secondly, and show you where we are at the moment in terms of the development activity. And then secondly, show you what has been approved for the remainder of the site and the few changes that we're contemplating that will allow us, with your cooperation, to be able to proceed forward. What I'm showing you here are colors from the Kirkbride building and components of the old buildings that were designed to be incorporated into our development activity. And they were keystones and grills and stone and so on and so forth. And in fact, when you go there today, we've done that. The buildings we have incorporated the stone from the historic buildings. We've included railings from the buildings. We've taken some of the grills off the windows of the historic buildings and applied them to some of the retail buildings that are there today. So a lot of that has been done, and you can see that, and a lot more will be coming. I remember sharing, excuse me, let me figure out how to, yeah, there we go. We shared early on the concept of this Main Street, which was King of Prussia Town Center. And we showed how the retailers were sharing a main street, how the parking was behind the stores, how we had green areas for gathering and entertainment. And we incorporated that into our main street. And this is what the plan is that we all approved and we committed to building. So we have our main street is Winslow Gate Drive. All but one building, in fact, has outdoor seating areas, gathering areas. Now, in fact, a lot of it's not there today, but it's not built yet, but it's designed, it's half built. And as we open up these buildings over the next 3, 4, 5 months and put the landscaping in, ping pong tables, outdoor seating area, art wall, etc., all of that will in fact be there. it will in fact look very similar to the renderings that we originally promised. In fact, we have this area in front of one building called Building L, which is going to be exactly what was shown. This is going to be built in front of Building L. We have created on Winslow Gate Drive an area that's reserved for sitting and gathering. There'll be Adirondacks chairs with landscaping, art walls. The art walls themselves will reutilize the brick from the historic Kirkbride building, which was painstakingly taken down, similar with the pylons on site. The south and north pylon reutilized, reclaimed brick from the historic buildings and reutilized them in the pylon. This area here will have food trucks and art walls, and outdoor picnic tables. It'll have various entertainment vehicles. So I think that you know, it's fair to say that by the time we finish opening Winslow Gate Drive, you'll see that what we're delivering is exactly what we all wanted. A main street where it's not going to be busy with parking lots. It's going to be available for people to walk and gather and entertain, to have outdoor dining, and so on and so forth. These are in fact some of the images that we have. We purchased chess tables like this and ping pong tables. We have a picnic area with 6 or 7 tables and string lights, et cetera, et cetera. So that is basically what we've built today. In terms of tenancy, we shared with you the tenants at King of Prussia Town Center, and you know who our tenants are today. We have the ShopRite, Starbucks, and CVS, Pulse MD, who's a local operator, and Medi Spa, and Smoothie King, and Bubble Tea. Supercuts is coming, AT&T, there's a hair salon. We are in discussions with a regional sporting goods and apparel center, a sit-down steakhouse, as well as sit-down Japanese restaurant as well. So that's basically where we are today and what we've built. Now let me show you what we are planning for the rest of the development. Just bear with me while I get my bearings. Okay. Yep, got it. Okay, be patient. Thank you. Okay. How do I enlarge this? There you go. Okay. There's primarily 2 areas of changes that we're contemplating. The first area pertains to the upper left-hand side, where we have figured that with the engineers that we can accommodate additional residential density. The second area is in what I'm going to call lot number 2 and 7 North, which is the lower portion of the site. And I'll blow these up so you can see them fairly well. But these are the 2 areas that we anticipate reconfiguring and reusing or changing, if you will, converting the commercial approved area that we have into residential and village green area, which I'll show you. And without those 2 areas, the site plan basically remains the same. We did have additional residential capability up here in this area, which was not utilized in this plan. And the lot number 2 and 7 on the approved plan contemplated a 40,000 square foot medical office building with elongated parking lot, and then residential on the top of this portion here on lot 7. So the 2 changes again are basically the area of this increased density and the Village Green concept, which we'll talk about. The overall development, which of this amount of units, can't be built by one residential developer, particularly if we want to have a wide variety of uses. If we want to have 55 and older, if we want to have market rate housing, if we want to have townhomes, apartment units, multi-floor, there isn't a company that specializes in all of these. So what we've done is we've gone out and have been working with a collection of various proven developers, the names of whom you'll all know, they're very respectable. And we chose what we think was the best in class to, number one, to restore and reutilize the administration building and convert it into something. Another one specializes in townhome development for rent or for sale. And two or three that specialize in market rate housing of different types. So what we are planning on, how we're planning on proceeding is having the various developers purchase and develop subdivided lots. What ties it all together is the approved colors and that we approved collectively, and the reutilization of the materials and so on and so forth. There's other things that keep all of the residential units together are the common walking paths, the great lawn, and the common amenities. So it's that fabric that ties all of the various residential subdivisions together. We have one company that specializes in historic rehab, and they are planning on proceeding with the full restoration of the administration building, along with erecting a similar building behind it and next to it. So what I've done is I'm going to show you 4 sections, if you will, of the larger parcel, and then refer to some of their product type and some of their historic developments. This particular company has an expertise in the ability to convert and restore buildings like the Kirkbride Administration Building the way that we want it. Their intention is to use that building and the adjacent land around it as 55 and older, as well as market rate with some affordable multifamily units. And this is some of the product that they have built. Excuse me. Same company intends to use this area, lot number 11, as a multifamily, and again, this is kind of their product that they have built. Obviously, it'll be modified to reflect the colors and the materials that we approved collectively for Hudson Heritage. That's consistent with all of the developments. Along the ring road of Hudson Heritage, my company, in conjunction with PCD Development, intend to build 160 units on lot number 6, which is as you're coming up Hudson Heritage Drive. It's the units on the right-hand side. The land goes down quite a bit. This will be a 4-story product, but because of the grade change, it follows the slope down. As you might recall, when we first came in for approvals, the board reviewed and I believe approved conceptually the colors and the type of structure that that we contemplate for this particular area. In fact, I remember coming in with flat roofs originally, and comments were made to make it a pitched roof, and we made the pitched roof and we changed some colors, etc. So that's the kind of product that will be along Ring Road. It'll be multifamily units, not too dissimilar from One Duchess, but we think a much better product because it's part of a live, work, play community. You can walk out your door and go have all the restaurants and supermarket you want, but you also have acres and acres, and including 8 miles of sidewalks and walking and running trails on the site. In the rear, we're contemplating townhomes, attached townhomes. And that's lot 15 and 16 behind the administration building. And we have a developer who is extremely experienced in townhome development. Thinking is to be 55 and older, amenity-oriented, combination of rent and for-sale housing, and to basically build a community like that in the back of the administrative area. So we have a collection of all sorts of housing points that will hopefully satisfy a lot of residential uses. We keep a running list of people that call on a regular basis looking for housing, what's going on, when are you going to have housing, and it's quite significant. As recently as last month, we sat with Marist College, and again, we hear, we need graduate student housing, we need housing for our staff, we need housing for our community to downsize and stay within the community. When we first got together with them, Marist wanted to have a 55 and older life studies on campus. You might remember that. We spent a lot of money and time creating a beautiful life studies building for 55 and older so that they can stay in the community and enjoy that, as well as go across the street for music, etc. And because of the way things have changed, Marist can't go ahead with it, but there's still a very significant demand in the area for 55 and older. A couple of pictures of what this developer product is. And of course, in each subdivision, each developer is going to come in and make a presentation to the planning board for their site plan approval, which requires that they comply with all the site plan regulations, which means that they have to meet the zoning and they have to meet the architectural approved guidelines that govern Hudson Heritage development. The lower section, which is along Route 9, which incorporates the director's house, we envision as being a village green. The director's house was something that we always wanted to reuse. It's been very difficult because it kind of sits out there by itself. There's not a whole lot of uses for it without things around it. So in response to our conversations with Jay and Michael and others, we tried to, and also Marist College, we tried to come up with a redevelopment of this area that would enable the director's house to be an integral active part of what goes on there, number one. Number two, recognizing that the hotel couldn't fit in the administration building, we wanted to move the hotel from the upper residential portion down into this area. Number three, we wanted to create a type of retail product that would be affordable for local smaller tenants, incubator spaces, professional type offices, startups, specialty shops, and boutiques. In order to accommodate that, as well as to satisfy the need of graduate student housing, we said if we put graduate student housing on top of this type of retail, it could support the retail, because that kind of retail, as Ed will get into, can't support itself. These retailers can't afford the size, the taxes, the operating costs associated with our traditional shopping center. So we worked with our team and we came up with a village concept that I think we're very proud of, and we'd like to share it with you. This would, in essence, be a continuation of the Winslow Gate Drive and a continuation of the retail configuration. This is Winslow Gate Drive, which continues. There's no change in the roadways. It connects with Hudson Heritage Drive. As you're entering from south to north, we have three buildings, 12,000 square foot building, 12,500, 12,500, with this type of retail boutique specialty shop that I'm describing, with floors of graduate or smaller units, residential units above it. it incorporates or uses well this large village green. If you remember, we went through enormous steps to save this magnificent beech tree. And I know everybody here will remember that. So we redesigned the site around this beech tree. We figured why not use it? So we've incorporated the beech tree into a large village green. We made the director's house now something meaningful that could be part of this. And we moved the hotel on the left-hand side in this configuration. The roads continue to be the same. There's plenty of parking, so on and so forth. We took a couple of views, asked our architect to come up with some perspectives. We have one perspective if you're standing here looking in this direction at the director's house and the residential. The second perspective this way, and then the third perspective. So one perspective is, looking across, you can see the director's house on the right-hand side. The beech tree is here, and this would be the village green and two of the three buildings that I mentioned, with the specialty shops on the first floor and floors of smaller units, graduate student housing above it. Marist does not need more student housing. They need more professional housing and graduate student housing, particularly expanding their premise. This would allow us to afford to build the type of retail that we're talking about. It would energize the director's house and create a second Great Lawn in effect. Another perspective of what we envision is from this view, a different view again with the director's house in the background now being part and integral of an area with some little pop-up shops in the middle and a large gathering area. A third perspective looking the other way would be a small retail building on the southern end, again with the retail space on the first floor, specialty shops, and the smaller units and graduate students above. It was created to basically attract local retailers, breweries, restaurants, an area that tourists will like to come to and place to hang out, an outdoor gathering area for the residents in a quadrangle type setting. Most importantly, to highlight the director's house and integrated. So that's our thoughts of how we would like to proceed forward. Ed, let me turn it back to you.
I don't have any more pretty pictures, so I sure hope you like the ones you saw. I want to step back a second to the big picture and some of the macro trends and what this all means and what do we need to do to get there. Mark mentioned some of the things like the trend again in retail. This has been on for quite a while, right? The days of Blockbuster Videos and bank branches and big box retailers, whatever happened to Crazy Eddie, long gone. That's been going on for 2 decades, and with things like Netflix and Amazon and online banks have taken their place. Mark also mentioned the housing demand. Now, at a macro level, right, we've been generating new households. New households have been formed a lot faster than new homes have been built. All right, so to the tune of about 5.5 million shortfall over the last 10 years or so, depending on how you count the numbers. I'm not sure how that has worked in Poughkeepsie, but what has happened nationally, the biggest increase in household formation has actually been kids leaving home now, adult children, believe it or not. I hope some of you are having that experience. I've been lucky. I got 3 tax-paying kids right now that don't live at home, so I'm extremely blessed. But as the job market tightened, as job opportunities and ability to have jobs that were 400 miles away and do it by telecommuting, right? Kids are actually able to go out and get their own place. Right? We want those places to be in Poughkeepsie. We don't want them to move away. Right? I'd like to learn more about that from each of you as we make our rounds. Mark also mentioned local employment growth, and we've got Marist and Vassar. Hopefully someday IBM is going to spur more employment growth in housing needs as well. But there's another more subtle change that's happened a lot more recently, and that's what's happened in the commercial area. Okay, we all know about COVID. We all know about work from home. None of us knew what Zoom was 5 years ago, 3 years ago. Some of us 3 months ago, okay? But we've got this work from home phenomena, and we have an incredibly tight labor market where people can decline jobs if they're told they have to come to the office 5 days a week. That's a relatively new thing, right? These things have created some more subtle secondary effects, okay? Things, indoor spaces like daycare. Well, if people aren't commuting, they don't need daycare. So that daycare center we were going to put in the back there, well, guess what happened to daycare centers during COVID? People stopped going to daycare centers and dropping their kids off because they were afraid they were going to get sick. So finding healthy, growing daycare centers now is kind of tough sledding. Okay? Another thing, and I know I personally experienced this, working from home creates cabin fever. Right? There are times you go 5 days and you haven't been outside. So guess what people want now? They want to be, people are social creatures. We want to be outdoors and see people. So we're going to work from home all day in front of a computer. We want to be able to go out and see our friends and have a drink. So the desire for these outdoor gathering spaces is actually much greater than when we set up these spots, a couple years ago, right? So this is what really kind of led us to this whole Village Green concept. The current densities go all the way back to about 2005 when CPC was buying this thing from the Department of Mental Health, right? And went through a couple permutations with the HRDD and the site plan and stuff like that. But basically that mix of 750 residential units and 60,000 square feet really hasn't changed. It's 20 years old. Okay. The DMP recognized there was a need for flexibility, and now we're saying, well, between the evolving long-term trends and some of these more recent trends that look like they're going to stay with us, right? There's a need to evolve. Okay. The biggest thing that we feel is we don't have a need for 350,000 square feet of commercial. We've had 3 different brokers. We have 2 pads ready for commercial development, and we have 0 interest. And it's a combination of factors. You know about your own tax rates, and I'm sure that doesn't bother you, that kind of discourages us wonderful things like self-storage, and I don't think we're going to miss that. Okay, but the commercial square footage is just not in demand anymore. Whereas, and the retail, we're doing okay. It's a different retail than it would have been 10 years ago. But that 200,000 square feet of excess commercial square footage is likely to stay vacant. It's not going to produce anything for us, not going to produce anything for the town. And yet at the same time, that could be redeployed as housing, and I think everybody would benefit. So that's one of the 2 big macro themes I want to leave you with. The second one is this Village Green concept. That's my favorite thing. Okay? When I went to college, you had a quadrangle. Basically, you had a box of buildings with a piece of grass in the middle, and that was a big deal to us. We thought that was just great. Okay? But having things with gathering spots, with steps and fountains, you're going to picture people sitting out there playing guitar or whatever, chess, probably indulging in a couple things we're not going to encourage, right? Sitting on the porch of that director's house, being able to see grass, to be able to have little events there and energize the place. This is a wonderful thing. But as Marty mentioned, you can look at Eastdale Village as an example that Jay threw out to me, and we've studied, and that ground floor retail, those boutiques, those fun things, the specialty butcher, vintage clothing store, the bagel shop, they can't build in 1,000 square foot increments with 25-foot ceilings and entrances at both sides. That kind of product that we have currently on the site doesn't work for them. They need smaller footprints, and they need much lower costs. Okay? They're also, we want innovators, we want incubators. They're not going to sign 10-year leases, probably not even 5. So they need smaller space, lower cost, shorter leases. Okay? They're also less creditworthy. Okay? So they have higher vacancy rates. Bottom line is, the retail's a loss leader. Right? That's okay, because what it does is it energizes the place. It makes it a place you want to go. It makes it a place where people are going to stop on the way home. And not just the residents that live in the community stop there, but people who live in the broader Poughkeepsie community. Okay? To make that work, you have to create income property above it, and hence the residential property above it. So that those floors of retail, the micro sites, the graduate student housing, whatever it is, the income from that has to support the loss leader of the retail. And that's okay, but that's the structural concept that makes the retail work. Okay, so they go hand in hand. All right. That's the real long wind up. Okay, here's the pitch. All right, how do we get there from here? All right. been nice monologue on our part, and I hope to change into a dialogue very, very shortly, and for many weeks to come. But there's basically two things that stand in our way right now, or two potential, and that is density. We need density to create those upper floor units, okay? If we simply cannibalize the 750 units we have today to build that student housing, that just takes them off the board to subsidize the retail, and we end up going backwards. So I hope that makes sense, but we'll explore that more one-on-one with you.
Could you say that again?
Yes,
That's concern for density?
yes.
Yeah, 750 is not enough at this point.
That makes sense to me, considering what's there. I'm not an engineer, I'm not an architect. I went
Neither
to the
am I.
police department here in 1974, so that's how long I've been here.
I have a couple of comments. Could you talk about the Village Green? That's an important factor, and you want to see that happen. You have CVS, you have Burger King, you have Chipotle. I think they all have drive-throughs, right?
Starbucks. Burger King?
Starbucks has a drive-through.
Yes.
So your concept has a bunch of retail with drive-throughs. The one thing that happens when there's a drive-through is people don't get out of their car, they drive through. So when you say, I want to do this, we can believe you and look at your pictures, but then when you actually do that, it is what it is. So to create a Village Green, you actually have to have a situation where people will park their car, get out and walk around. You don't have tenants right now that create that. You have the exact opposite. So I believe people, but then I watch what they do. So far, it's somewhat unimpressive as far as how you're filling it in to create the Village Green, have people sitting, chatting, walking around, live, work, and play. Right now, the only thing that I would do there is drive through and keep going. So maybe it will develop over time, maybe not. 750 residential units. When you say today, no one goes in the office anymore. When you look at the development of a municipality, you need a mix. You should have a healthy mix. Sometimes one piece of it gets built out sooner than the other pieces. But if you only build one thing, you'll never have a mix. So if you take your property and only build residential, you get rid of the potential for any mix up there. So if by chance we don't go to a 4-day work week, and if by chance people start going back into the office, and if by chance the economy shifts like it tends to do, we would have a whole bunch of residential. We'd be a bedroom community. People will drive in, drive out, drive through, but never sit, never chat, never walk around. So I guess my concern is if you build for what fits immediately, because that will make you the maximum benefit, then we don't really build out the town the way it should be. We miss opportunities that were in the past, we miss opportunities in the future because we just grab what's right here in front of us. And sometimes the low-hanging fruit isn't the best fruit to grab. So 750 units of residential is a lot of residential. I don't know off the top of my head anywhere in our town or even near our town where we've had that massive of a residential build out in the recent past or at all. So the idea of adding more, because if you don't add more, you can't then make it more creative, is problematic to me. You should make it more creative. You should make it really nice. You should make it all work. We don't have to constantly jam more in. We don't have to waive rec fees. We don't have to give pilot agreements to make it work for you, because if it doesn't work right now, then it doesn't necessarily have to be built out immediately. The other concern that I have is it could be the best project ever with 10 different residential developers, as long as it's woven through really nicely. But if you go just south of here and take a look at, I don't want to name the town, there's a town that has a Walmart, and they have commercial, they have retail, they have residential, they have a million hotels. It's so disjointed and disconnected. Each neighborhood is its own little world. Nobody walks from one neighborhood to the other. Nobody walks from their house to the store. Everybody drives around through there. You don't have any sense of real community. There is no if you ask me the center of that community, I tell you I have no idea. I have no idea. Where is the heart? I have no idea. The heart is over here, it's over there, it's over there, it's over there. So you could be onto something really, really good, or you could build something horrible. The problem for me is I live here. I grew up here. My kids live here. They're growing up here. Hopefully they will live here. And hopefully if they want to work from home, they could work from home. But if they want to go into an office near their house, there'll be an office near their house. If they want to do something other than retail near their house, there'll be something other than retail. If we focus on just what's right here in front of us immediately, we will screw this up. This is such an opportunity to do something so nice and so impressive. Your plans look good, but the building's fallen apart. The buildings have fallen apart. The historic buildings are all but gone. Some burned down, some fell apart. We now have a situation where I think we have one little piece of that building left out of all that. And we have Burger King, Chipotle, Starbucks. What was the other one? CVS. Drive-throughs. Drive-throughs do not encourage a walkable community. It's not live, work, play. It's drive-through and keep moving. And I would prefer to see you guys succeed and this project be fantastic. I don't think the solution to that is adding more residential right now. I like the idea of the residential over the commercial. I don't think we have to figure out a way to subsidize you to get you to do that. I think the commercial has had to have been pretty profitable already. I think. That's what everybody wanted.
This is a public meeting, so I want to go on public record. I've made this offer to Jay 3 times. If you can find somebody else who will buy this at my cost, I will give you that option in writing. I just want to respond, okay? I'm tired of hearing how profitable this is. I am fighting hard to avoid a write-down on this property, okay? There is 0 profit. I am offering publicly to sell it at my cost. Take me up on it, and not to you. You don't have to buy it. Find somebody else.
I'm not trying to broker deal.
Okay, but please.
What I'm saying
I will
is,
show you the books. Please don't tell me.
what I'm saying is,
No, sir. I think you've made a lot of great points, and I want to learn from them. But the one you don't know is how profitable it is. It is not profitable.
I said earlier,
Can we go on
I'd
the
like
record?
you to have a very successful project and be as profitable as possible for you, but I live here, they live here.
Yes.
We will live with it when you guys leave town. So it should be something that it will be your legacy and hopefully our legacy where you look at it and say, this is fantastic. So that's why my concern is it's got to be done right the first time.
Absolutely.
It can't be disjointed. It can't be a bunch of random housing types that don't connect at all. Sidewalks that don't get people to walk on them, where you're driving through drive-throughs, there's nothing there to make you stop, doesn't create what you say you're trying to create. There's a chunk of it that's done. So that's the only thing I can base my opinion on. So right now, as we sit here, what's up there is not a village green where people are going to stop and walk and get out and enjoy. It's a bunch of drive-through retail locations.
Right, and this is a very, very important thing. And you're right. I don't want drive-throughs. They don't. That's not what we want. Okay. And Jay and Michael and Carl and I, and we've talked about that because we looked at that, the Main Street and the big stores that are there, just physically big, large operations and so forth. And we said, okay, so there isn't a small deli, right? There isn't a cheese shop, okay, that kind of thing. Why is that? Well, the common area maintenance, including taxes, is $15 a foot. I have no control over that. Okay, that's almost $10 in taxes. Okay, and that's $5 because all those extra areas means more lighting, means more snow removal, means more maintenance and stuff like that. So that's $15 a foot on top of the rent. Now, why are the rents so high? The rent's so high because it took about $40 million to get the flat land. Okay, we've got environmental issues, we've got sewer issues, we've got demolition, we've got historical issues. Something had to pay for that. So we ended up with these big things, okay? They are what they are, right? That's how we got there. We said, yeah, if we're going to continue that, everything you said is right. And we said, okay, so how do we not continue that? How do we get the local people, the boutiques, the interesting things, the things that bring character and charm and walkability, right? And you'll notice that the parking and stuff is all outside the greens on the other side, right? How do we do that? And that's when we said, we've got to offer a smaller product that's more suited to them at a much lower cost. Now, that's where the residential came in. Now, you talked about how much we have, okay? This is a 156-acre site, okay? So you tell me how many other 156-acre sites have this kind of residential density? It's a small density.
Here's just my suggestion. I don't want to have just go back and forth with you. I'm willing to sit down and talk to you whenever. But what I'd love to see is just show me. You guys, I'm guessing this isn't your first time coming through doing a project. Just show me. I'm the new guy on the board.
Can I make one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I just
Let me
make
turn
one
that
point?
over.
Because I've been involved in my career. I've been fortunate enough to do a lot of this. One of the things that's happening at the moment that you're not focusing on, I think, is we're talking about the second phase and you're suggesting because of the drive-throughs, there's no live, work, play. We're still constructing. And I just want to point out that as part of Marty's presentation, the areas here, even for this first phase, which are, again, there are more stores to come as these things are opening, are being built in the spring. We showed you the chess. We showed you the ping pong tables. We showed you the outdoor areas and the landscaping that's going to be put in. We didn't do it in the middle of winter. That's what's coming. So to some extent, I understand your comment, but to make the comment, I'd ask you to please have a little patience because we're still in the construction phase of what we're creating. The bottom line is who's going to be primarily the target of hanging around and being in the Village Green? It's going to be the residents. And what you need is the appropriate amount of density to have the people that are living on the site who will then be populating the commercial areas, creating the customers, which, by the way, also are the demographics, which is what attracts the commercial business to want to be at the particular location. And all of this has to come together at the end. We did have, and I told you we had certain constraints with respect to the construction, which required us, because otherwise it would have been tremendously expensive, to start the construction at Route 9 and build it eastward. And to do that, the layout of this site contemplated the commercial, which is what you're seeing at the beginning. Ed is correct. It also helped pay for some of that infrastructure, which is not only going to be servicing phase 1, but also much of phase 2 as well. We have to amortize it over the other units. So I just wanted to give a little bit of that perspective. I would ask you, we appreciate your patience in listening to a long presentation tonight. We would hope you would keep an open mind to this, because from my own personal perspective, and I got involved with this only because my friend asked me to and said, I'd like you to look at this and what you think. I think this is a beautiful plan. I think this is going to be a beautiful neighborhood. And Ed said it, you have 156 acres. But we are going to need a little bit of help to do that. And if you say you're on your own, we get it. We'll have to figure out where we're going to go. And you're going to wind up with uses and you're going to have types of residents and things I don't think you want there. Because that's the only thing that's going to be afforded to be built there. We're trying to do something at a very high end here.
Well, that's where I'm not arguing against that. The only thing I'm saying is that if after the fact you say, we tried, but, that's problematic. And right now I'm getting, we tried, but, right now this is what we could get, this is what we have, this is what we have to start with. So I said, I'd love to sit down with you, rather than hash it out here, and take a look at what you've actually done, because I don't know any of you personally, I don't know any of you professionally, so I'd love to see, just show me what you've done, and then I say, okay, what you build is what you say you're gonna build here. But right now, my biggest concern is that this project should be the showcase of the county, something that I've always wanted to see in our town, something where you can go somewhere else and say, we got that in our town. People come here and go, oh my God, this is so nice. I want those pictures to come to life. My concern is if it's not done right, it won't. I don't know that adding density fixes that problem, and that's where we're not gonna work this out here. And I got involved in this because a friend asked me to about 25 years ago. So we all get involved because people ask us to do things for better or worse. At the end of the day, the point of this is to get it right here and now, because we're not gonna be able to redo it. And when you said you got a guy that builds townhouses, you got a guy that builds multifamily, you got a guy that builds historical, that sounds perfect. But just south of here, there is a town where there's a big shopping plaza, and then there's apartments, there's hotel, there's townhouses, there's single family, and it doesn't seem like to me anybody walks from one neighborhood to the other or to any of the commercials. So that's why I say, I just want to see this work. I'm not trying to kick your legs out from under you. I'm trying to prop you up, support you, and move you forward. So that's where I'll whatever time you want, I'll sit down with you. I love to see what you do. I just want to understand the why as to what you're asking for.
If I can just,
Marty, let me step in first. You know, we brought you back to the table. You came in because there was issues, and I said 90% of what Stefan said. You brought in the proposal, and you showed me what was still coming. So I think, as the other gentleman said, there were certain things coming. We asked you to try to do different issues, because my comment multiple times was, people that come to visit this county, go north, they come back, they're coming back from the culinary to Roosevelt, they want to stop somewhere to eat, which Ed, you went back, you listened, you visited the areas. So this is the stepping stone to where we're going. And I think our next step should be meeting the board members one-on-one to do the same type of presentation, because I think it can work. Whether there's still tweaks in there, absolutely. But I think moving forward to make this work and flow right, Quiet Cove Park across the street is building up. They're doing great projects. The urban trail is coming from the back. There's, I think, 3 or 4 miles of trails on your property. There is a product there, but I think this whole board, and not in a 45-minute presentation, is going to understand the whole project. So I think you should meet them, and as Stefan stated, the amount of buildings up there he hasn't seen, to take some of the board members back up there and show them what has been done, because I will tell you, I probably had 90% of the same comments in the beginning, and it went the direction of, we need to get people that want to come down and stop. And I will say, I think you are going in the right direction. Well, we need to still tweak it, change it, make some changes, and look at the whole picture. But the whole board, this is their first sighting of this. We've discussed it 2 or 3 times already, and Mike, I know, has sat with you more than I have. We need to go forward, but I think the next step would be this board meeting on a one-on-one, or 1 or 2 of them together to get it, and start from up there to come back to understand what you've physically done. And Marty, the pictures you showed me that were coming hopefully this year, which made a difference, because I said exactly what Stefan said. It's drive through and leave. The fact that there are other things there, to see that product come into life, I think is a positive. So instead of just, as Stefan also said, hashing things out tonight, I think we should set up different board members in the meeting with you guys to take this forward, so everybody has a true feeling of what is going on, and seeing what's going on, and a little extra input from 6 other bodies that I think just about everybody here has lived here their whole life, to give their input to move this forward, because it is a project we want to see come to life, because it is a huge increase for the tax base, which they could use. And I think what people want, and we're seeing it even in Arlington, which is probably 100 years old, the fact that they've built restaurants, they've opened restaurants. You come by there on a Wednesday night, 6 years ago, it was a ghost town. It is coming to life. People are coming to Arlington, and Eastdale is the same thing. To bring that to life, there is room. I think it can work, but this board has to be comfortable and move forward. So I think our next bet would be to sit down with the board members as a group, and split them up and take them up there, show them what's there, show them your plans, and then sit down and get their input. They've all traveled worldwide, so they probably have a lot of input also.
Let me just wrap it up and thank you. First of all, every one of your comments, I think that I hope that I'm going to receive and listen to them, and all of it very, very much. I look forward to meeting and discussing all of this. This is a lot. We've gone through with Jay probably 4 or 5 times already. You're only seeing it for the first time, okay? So all these questions are perfectly valid, and we need to learn more. If you feel that we're overdoing it with the shift from commercial to residential, you know your town better than we. There's nothing worse than somebody coming in from out of town, putting through a bunch of drive-ins, and then leaving, and you're still here. I don't want to do that to your home. I don't want somebody to do that to my home, okay? When I started down this path 10 years ago, because I bought the original, I did the purchase from CVC, okay? A CPC, right? Back then, the town's worries were things like getting left with these buildings. There was vandalism issues, there were safety issues, there were fire issues, and so forth and so on. And one of the fears was that somebody would come in and they'd go and build a strip center on Route 9, take the money, and leave you with a bunch of abandoned buildings. That was a very real concern. You remember when we were first doing this, and we said, we're not going to do that. Now, it's 10 years later, I'm still here. 10 years later.
We haven't gotten past that
I'm still
point
here.
yet, though.
I'm
So-
$60 million into my $20 million commitment, okay? I'm 10 years into my 3-year project. I think I've shown that I can take a punch, and I'm going to try to meet my commitments really hard. And I accept your concerns and the need to have some handcuffs to make sure that what we promise is what we deliver. And so I'd like to learn more, and I'd like to make you guys more comfortable and to get to know each other better. But, you know, I was supposed to retire 5 years ago. I'm here. I'm going to be here. I'm going to come and see each of you personally. All right? So let's learn together, okay? But I think the challenge is, can we make something, like you said, that the community is proud of, that when people drive through, they say, wow, that was really neat. What's that over there? Let's stop there. There's a concert, there's a farmer's market, there's this, there's that. And it's not just on the Great Lawn, although that's a big piece of it, right? But these other pockets, right? It's more than color schemes that connect these communities. It's roof lines, it's feel, it's flow, it's interconnectivity, it's activities that span these communities. It's not having amenities that only one set of residents uses. So the challenge is how to make it real and how to hold our feet to the fire so it becomes real. So that's perfectly fair game. I think that's exactly the right concern. And just as when Jay and Michael first said, hey, you know, we don't need more chains. You know, we don't, you know, enough with the chains and the drive-throughs. I said, okay, why are we there and how do we fix it? And we said, we gotta do something different. And so I'd like to continue that learning process and that education and getting to know you process. So I thank you very, very much for your time.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
On to our committee reports. Finance.
Nothing to report.
Just on the line of finance, Jessica's out today, but we are starting the audit. We should be here next week to start the whole audit process, and look like we're in good shape so far. Technology?
Yes, last month we had 9,400 uses for our website. And the top pages viewed were the main page, followed by bill pay, receiver of taxes, and then the building department. And under our government delivery, our email list, we've got 77 new survivors, and we're up to 6,750 subscribers on our email list. The police phone system has gone live, so that completes all our changes to the phone system for the town hall and police department. We've managed to auction off all the old monitors and servers, so they've been sent to auction. And Munis, the new water billing system is in place and is ready to be used this month. And we're also getting a Spectrum TV station, and we're in the final stages of setting that up, so we'll be broadcasting on Spectrum also.
And in the process of broadcasting Spectrum, Verizon has gone down. They don't know what they did, one thing glitched the other, so
Oh,
we're working
no.
with Verizon to get Verizon back up. Something happened when they crossed with Spectrum, so Tim is working on getting Verizon back up. Mr.
It's
Renahan.
always something.
Summer camps are now open. Details are on our recreation website. Be sure to take advantage of the early registration. So far, like I said, it's moving along well. There's a new program. It's a STEM spring break camp, April 3rd through April 7th. There's 2 sessions for ages 8 to 12 years old. I believe she said, right, didn't she say it was filled? There's a waiting list?
It's just about full
Just
waiting
about
list,
full.
and she's looking to see if she can get a second
Yeah.
round, so they're still accepting names. And that is being semi-sponsored by the donation from AP Packaging.
Correct. And that's going to be held at the police community room on Tucker Drive. So like I said, just call up and get some more information on that if you'd like that. The recreation is still looking for seasonal help. They're looking for jobs, both groundskeepers and camp counselors. They're having a hard time trying to find people. So any college kids home for the summer, if you know any college kids home from the summer, you know, there's jobs to be had there. Just a reminder about the Springfest celebration at Vassar College on Saturday, April 15th from 1 to 3 p.m. It's still planned on there. And there's numerous events planned at the Senior Center. You know, the website is updated often, so just keep on checking for all the exciting events at the Senior Center.
Jeff, do you have a date for the holiday event at Vassar?
Which one?
The holiday event, the Easter
Are you
egg
saying the
hunt?
Spring Fest or?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the April 15th.
It's on here.
Huh?
No, I'm showing.
Okay, yeah, April 15th from 1 to 3.
Okay.
It's going to include, like I said, the Pet and Zoo, Tumble Bus, live music with the Harvest Duo, Vassar students-led activities, and ACON giveaways, and much more for your mission.
You mentioned that too, right?
Yes, the STEM, I mentioned that one. That's the 3rd through 7th.
Yep.
Thought I mentioned it.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Fire advisory.
Really, the only topic we discussed was the recent issues that people have been reading about with lithium-ion battery incidents, especially the one that just happened in the city down there. There seems to be an increase going around even countrywide, but just even recently, there was one in Arlington with one of those vape mods, I think they're called, for vaping. It was in one of the, I believe it was a student's pocket, and it exploded in his pocket. So, I mean, they're selling these things out there in shops, online, everywhere, and you just got to make sure that what you're buying is meant, that battery is meant for that unit. Some are just buying them and throw them in there, and it says it right on the battery, not for that use, and they're still using it. So, I mean, everyone hears about the e-bicycles and e-scooters and all that with lithium problem, but even the small things, the vapes, which, luckily, like I said, I'm not saying luckily, pocket, but I mean, if it was in his closet or something like that, it could have been a lot worse. The same thing, like I said, with the dangers of cell phones, putting cell phones on people's beds or pillows and they get hot and burn up. So there's just a lot, just if you do have, an e-bike or any of that thing in your house, again, is watch out also where you park it. Don't put it near a means of egress in case it does explode and has a fire. You want to make sure you get out. So that's all.
Infrastructure.
Nothing to report.
Personnel.
Nothing to report.
Building consolidation, we have not met. We took a lot of comments and questions from residents going forward, and I've reached out to some different entities to try to get all those answers. We should have some answers in the next couple of weeks, but I'd like to reiterate, because there's a lot of misinformation out there, that Town Hall is not moving. Town Hall has not been moving since this plan was put out there 4 months ago. So just so people know, it's not moving. We'll have more information out shortly, and we're looking at locations. Many people have sent in different locations, a lot of which we've looked at, originally, that were taken off the plate for different reasons, whether they're good locations or different projects moving forward. Some of them were sold in the meantime. Some had no interest in selling at all. So we are still going forward, and we're looking deeply into the situation. So we should be out in a few weeks with some full answers for everybody. Supervisor's report. One of the big issues that we're having is when the wet weather comes is I&I into the sewer plants, and people don't realize the damage that a sump pump does by pumping into the plant, because now you're treating basically rainwater, and the cost of chemicals have gone up 200 to 300%. And on top of that, that overflows, and the overflow goes into the Hudson River. So it's just a horrible effect. So if people would try to realize and understand different avenues, whether it's curtain drains or pumping into your backyard, or find a different way to do it, but a sump pump down your drain, down your toilet, or adding it into the sewer line is one of the worst things that can do. It's costing hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and the overflows it's costing, and the backups, what you see in some of the streets and stuff. A lot of this is all I&I, which is the inflow. It's not raw sewage. It's just the fact that people are pumping the rainwater into the sewage. And if you find somebody that's doing that, it's not allowed by town code to do that. There are different avenues, and we could help people find some of those different avenues. If they reach out and have one that they want to correct their problems, they can reach out, and we can try to work with them on correct them when possible. That's all I have. Anybody got anything else? Make a motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is there anybody that would like to discuss anything? We ask them to keep their comments to 3 minutes. Doreen, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Jay. So as far as Hudson Heritage, somebody, I'm not sure which one of the guys, maybe Ed, mentioned the beech tree that they were saving. And I believe I brought this up in a meeting before. They say they're going to save the beech tree. They put some construction fencing barely, from the road, this is all I can see, barely around the drip line. They didn't extend it any farther out. And again, from what I can see from the road, but I could see that construction equipment was parked right at right next to the protected construction fencing. Now, if they really were serious about saving that tree, they would have moved the fencing out more. They would have kept the heavy equipment away from it, because it compacts the soil, it damages the roots. So again, that tree may not die immediately, but I have been taking photos of it over the past several years, and it doesn't look as good as it did. So, if they talk about, what they're doing, but there's really, I think, a little more effort that can be put into some of these things, and that's just a small example. And also some of their erosion and sediment controls, riding down Route 9, you can see that they're not being properly maintained, and I brought that to the town's attention, and hopefully engineering will be on them. But again, this is not an isolated, incident. I've seen it all during the construction process. And if that's just what I can see from riding along Route 9, I don't know what other corners may be cut actually on the construction site itself that I can't see into. So I think they just need to put a little more effort into some of these issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? If not, motion to resume the rules?
Second.
Hi, this is Michelle.
Go ahead.
Is everybody hearing this? Okay, great. Yeah, I still do have that question about the contentious Hudson Heritage Project and the, I don't know whether it's on a flag lot, I don't know what lot it's on, but the 40-foot antenna is still something that I'm paying close attention to, and whether Cityscape, the wireless consulting firm that the town apparently hired, has made any comment about the OET Bulletin 65 and the length of time that someone can occupy in an uncontrolled exposure area, that power of frequency that the tower will be emitting. And I think that's up to 3,500 megahertz. And so, as I mentioned, the OET Bulletin 65 says 30-minute average and does not address anything longer than that to be FCC compliant. So I'm still waiting to hear very carefully what the wireless consulting firm has to say about it. And the other issue, that I've raised before that also hasn't been addressed as far as I know is, the fact that our smart meters are not, many of which are not properly grounded, and they don't have adequate surge protection. They do have, the MOV varistors, but they're not, those small components are not adequate to handle any major surge in power or electricity. So, and that would be a fire hazard that I know Ann and Jeff would be very, very upset about if this happened after I've been, kind of persistent about it. The infrastructure, addressing Bill, Ann, and Jeff, who are on that committee, we still seem to be adding infrastructure, maybe in an attempt to grandfather these antenna and additional appurtenances in before we get our updated telecom code. And that is just unethical to do that. So, I am praying that everybody on the teams and the committees will give the public enough time to review the updates to the telecom code to make a contribution to it and to, help tweak it if it needs any tweaking. But as of right now, I have no idea what was put on the draft. And, I was told that it would be going to the wireless consultants that are...
Michelle, Mr.
proponents of the telecom industry, and we still haven't, you know, had our eyes on it at all. I would love time to be able to review it.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. It's not out, we have not seen it either yet at this time.
Motion to-
Thank you.
Is it possible for anybody to have a peek at them so that?
Michelle, once the draft is done, it's still working in progress. Once the draft is done, the board will be presented it, and then we'll all get a chance to look at it. It's still in the working.
How long, Jay, before a vote is taken? An hour? Or
Why
what?
don't you give Jay a call tomorrow at Town Hall?
Okay.
Motion to resume the rules?
Thanks, Michelle. Motion to resume the rules?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.